All right, this furnace recently had a so-called tune-up on a tune-up special, and I'm just going to kind of take it in the order of the things they mentioned. They mentioned the inducer amps are okay, which is kind of a strange thing to mention because they didn't mention that about the other three motors in the system, and that's easily the least useful. They also mentioned that the circuit board is okay, and okay, I don't know what that even means because it's not like we analyze circuit boards. They either work or they don't. They also said they tightened all electrical connections, which is just one of those ridiculous things that they say, like, what, they removed every single connection and tightened them up? No, that just did not happen. Blower motor is okay. Okay, I guess. We don't really do much with blower motors. We don't oil them, and it's relatively new. Blower wheels caked up. Now that's a somewhat some truth to that, but not a lot. And so you can see there, it's dusty. Yeah, sure. And my instruments are not, I say mine, I mean the industry's instrument, the typical field technician's instruments are just not precise enough to even measure that. Like, I could take that out and clean it, and I don't think I'd see any difference on anything. Also says coil is rusted, and yes, it is. And so what? It was rusted 5 years or less after it was installed, because that's just what happens. You have these copper tubes. You have a tube sheet right there, steel, and it rusts. You have a metal drain pan, and it's rusty. And as metal drain pans go, it's actually less rusty than some. And so there is a little bit of a legitimate concern there in the sense that someday that rusty pan is going to rust through, and nobody knows when. You just can't predict it. There's no tool, there's no test. I'm not going to take my screwdriver and poke at it to test its integrity, so it just goes when it goes. So I guess that's something to bring up, but there's not much you can do about it, and you certainly can't condemn the equipment based on it. And let's see, anything else? Well, one thing they failed to mention, like, if I'm looking at this, my big concern is a couple things. One is that trap may clog someday, and they did not service it, didn't even talk about it. Also, they're supposed to be doing maintenance, and there isn't a lot of maintenance to do, but this is the flame sensor, and they clearly did not touch it. So one of the very few useful maintenance things they could have done, they didn't do. And then one other interesting thing was this is easily the worst brand of capacitor known to man, and they didn't put it in. But if I'm trying to help my customer not have unnecessary failures, I'm going to clean the flame sensor. I'm going to change this and then also address that. Those are the three things that could have been done that might have been somewhat preventive, and they couldn't even bother to do it. And this is what you call a typical tune-up. All right, one thing I forgot to mention over at the furnace is that they mentioned thermal stress on the heat exchanger, which is one of those completely nonsensical comments that has nothing to do with anything. Anyway, out here they mentioned the capacitor was out of spec, and it is. Also, interestingly, it's not quite the right value, so that was a good catch. Put a new one in. They didn't mention that it was a little bit low in refrigerant by about 8 ounces, and probably that's a good thing because a lot of these companies are charging hundreds of dollars per pound of R22 so-called Freon, which is ridiculous, but that's what they do. They had left all 4 of these caps, 2 service valve caps and 2 Schrader valve caps, loose, which possibly is why it was low in refrigerant. I doubt it. I mean, it probably was just a little bit low on its own, but one way to help it get low is to leave loose caps, because those 4 little tiny valves down there can sometimes leak. And they didn't notice that some fuses were running hot because of a loose set screw. Just didn't even catch that. And then they also mentioned that the contact points are pitted. And yeah, I guess you can, I'm having a hard time getting a good picture of it, but you could argue that. Now, I've been doing this 30 years. I can tell you those points are not particularly pitted. If you're being super conservative, yeah, change it, whatever. So, a couple of things that weren't taken care of that should have been taken care of, and that's what we call a tune-up.